Hello, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new and you've stumbled across this video. My name is Emmy and I'm really passionate about rat care, particularly the social side of rat care, and I even study the social behaviours of rats at university. And in today's video I wanted to debunk some of the reasons you might choose to house rats alone. So at this point I have probably heard every excuse under the sun, and I just want to explain why 99% of cases these are not valid reasons to house a social animal like rats alone. So just to start with, just in case you're not familiar, rats are highly social animals capable of forming strong social bonds in their groups, and in the wild they live naturally in big family groups, and in captivity when we keep them as pets we should be doing everything in our power to replicate this. Rats that are living alone or being housed alone lack the same quality of life as rats living in a group, and us as humans cannot replicate this or replace this, and that can lead to depressed and sick rats. I also just wanted to quickly say before I start any of the following points, I'm not making this video with the intention of upsetting anyone or belittling anyone. I just want to get this information out there because it is not a black and white issue. It can be quite tricky to navigate this and navigate some of the issues, but my main priority always is the rats and the rats' welfare, and if by making this at least one rat gets out of a situation when they're being housed alone, that is the main thing. So let's discuss some of the excuses that I have heard why people are housing their rats alone, starting with I only want one rat so that I can have a closer bond with it. Even if this one were true, which it definitely isn't, you are denying your rats their fundamental rights and needs that they should be provided with just for your own selfish reasons, which is so wrong. But also, bringing home a single rat, whether it's an adult or a baby, does not guarantee you're going to have a stronger bond with them. And I'm sure there's many people out there that do have single rats and have a really good bond with them, but that's also kind of like saying that if you have a group or a pair, you're not going to have strong bonds with them. Many of us, myself included, have stronger bonds and really close bonds with particular rats in our groups, and I don't think them being alone would enhance that. Also, it can very much work in the opposite direction. If you're bringing home a young baby rat that doesn't have a friend to support them and comfort them, they're going to be terrified, and that can make them really withdrawn and scared and can actually affect your bond with them. The next one, and this one I'd say is probably one of the most common ones, and that is I will spend all of my time with the rat, so it's fine. Nope, even if this were possible, which I highly doubt because every single human has to at least shower, sleep, go places to eat, go to school, go to work maybe, or just go to get groceries. Every single person has a responsibility that is not going to make this possible. Rats are also crepuscular, where they're awake during dawn and dusk, and unless you're some sort of immortal human, you're probably going to be asleep during some of that and miss their most active and social hours. But let's just pretend for a second you could spend 24 hours of the day with them. It still does not replace same species company, because as a human you can't communicate with them, play fight with them, cuddle with them, groom them, all of those things another rat would do. You just can't replace that as a human, so it is not enough and it is not a replacement. The next one that I've heard that is quite common is I can only have one rat because my parents or my landlord say so, or I need it as an ESA. Again, no, unfortunately if you can only have one, you'll have to get none. If for whatever reason, be it your parents or your landlord telling you can only get one and they really won't budge on the subject, and you know they have to live socially, you are going to have to do the right thing for them and not just buy one, and maybe go for a different species that isn't social instead. When it comes to ESAs or emotional support animals, they're not really a recognised thing where I'm from, but I have seen many comments of people justifying having a single rat just because it's an ESA. And yes, rats can be amazing for your mental and emotional health, but their own emotional and social needs should not be jeopardised just to benefit your own. Next up we have my cage is only big enough for one rat. This one is unlikely to be true because good appropriate sized rat cages are designed with pairs or groups of rats in mind. If you have a rat cage that is too small for two rats, it is likely too small for one rat too. Okay, I take it back. I think this one is the most common one, and this one is a sensitive one, and that is my other rat passed away and that has left me with only one rat. So this one I do really sympathise with because I have been through this myself, and it is a really difficult thing for you and also for your remaining rat to go through. So with this you have two main options really. The first one is to get more rats if you're happy to and introduce them to your current rat, or if you're not intending to keep rats anymore, often the kindest thing to do is to rehome them to someone that can provide them with that social company they need. Even rats that are 2 years old, 3 years old and still generally healthy enough to still be alive deserve to go through introductions and meet new rats and have social company for the remainder of their life. If you have a very elderly, frail or sick rat that you don't think will survive the introduction process, even with calmer older adults, chances are you're probably already questioning their quality of life. And there are people out there, if they have 2 elderly rats with their own health issues that are declining at a similar rate and one of them starts to go downhill, they will make the decision to let them both go at the same time just to avoid the pain of one being left by itself. Another one I've heard a few times is my rat is unwell or has a respiratory infection and has to be separated from the group. This one can be quite stressful to deal with and obviously is a case-by-case basis, but in most cases, if you have a rat that is suddenly unwell, unless it's being picked on or bullied by its cage mates, sometimes the worst thing you can do is take them away from the group. Removing a sick rat from their cage and their friends and what they're used to can be incredibly stressful for them, and stress can make certain illnesses like respiratory infections way worse. If you have a rat that's sick with a respiratory infection, you also don't need to worry about them passing it on to your current rats. Most rats are born with the mycoplasma bacteria that causes things like respiratory infections, and most rats have this inside of them and it lays dormant until they're stressed or their immune system is lowered. So most of your rats that they interact with probably already have this from birth, or if not, they have already been exposed to it by the time you notice symptoms. Things like mites and parasites, most rats already have these on them in small numbers, and it's not really a reason to remove them from their friends because social company is a lot more important and they've probably already been exposed to it. Obviously this is a case-by-case basis and please consult your vet beforehand. Some vets aren't quite as knowledgeable about rats and their social needs and will advise things like this, which isn't always necessary and can do more harm than good. So things like surgeries, some rats do have to live alone for a short period of time, but long term rats should always be in their groups, even if they have some underlying conditions or chronic illnesses. As I mentioned before, if you do have a rat that you believe is too ill or too unwell to introduce to other rats and they are living alone, obviously consult your vet about this that is knowledgeable about rats, but this again is probably a quality of life issue and that is probably something you will have to consider. The next one again is super common and also quite difficult to deal with, and that is my rat is too aggressive to live with other rats and has either injured or killed rats in the past. So this is the big one. Aggression in rats, especially male rats, but not limited to, females can also experience aggression. It is one of the most common causes of rats having to live alone because this can cause them to randomly attack their cage mates or cause issues during introductions where they injure other rats, they're constantly pestering other rats and they can't be safely introduced. So most of the time this is caused by hormonal aggression, where these rats genetically just produce too much of a certain hormone and this causes them to be aggressive either towards you or towards other rats. Now this is a medical condition that does need treatment and cannot be ignored. Ignoring this is like ignoring a rat that has a respiratory infection or a broken leg. Now I do get a lot of comments of people who have to house their rats alone because they've either bitten or injured or even killed other rats and they've not really tried other options beforehand before condemning that rat to a life of loneliness. There is of course other factors that may have caused injuries, things like not using proper introduction methods. People may just throw rats into the cage and just hope for the best, and of course that's caused fights and injuries if they're not using proper introduction methods, and then that might scare those people into never introducing those rats again. Other things like introducing baby rats too young or too small. I've seen a lot of cases of people putting 4-week-old baby rats in with fully grown adult male rats and those babies unfortunately haven't survived. So things like that can scare people away from ever trying again, and I know it's difficult, but try not to let it put you off. When it comes to rats that are struggling with hormonal aggression, you owe it to them to try to find someone that can spay them or neuter them, and I appreciate this is not available to everyone because some countries or places don't have this available and don't have vets that will do this, but if you do have this available to you, it can work in most cases. In some cases though, neutering doesn't always work to fix the issue. There still is a few options here. The first one is trying them with a few different groups. Just like humans, rats are not always going to like every single rat they meet, and sometimes you have to try them with different groups if they're still fighting. And if you're like me and you only have space for one cage, it's not always viable to bring in new rats and have loads of different rat cages, so you may have to reach out to other rat owners or rat breeders to help you with this and try them with different groups. I know a lot of people will be against this because they don't want to rehome their rat that they're attached to and they love, but in some cases we have to be selfless when it comes to rats and just make sure their social needs are being met. With male rats, in some cases, even after they're neutered, they can still be aggressive towards other male rats, whether they're all neutered or intact. And in these cases, it's really worth trying them with a group of females, whether this means you getting female rats yourself or giving them to someone that has females they can live with. In some rare and extreme cases, some rats, even after neutering and trying and exhausting every single option, still can't live with other rats. There may be something genetic or neurological going on that's caused them to be constantly stressed and on edge, and if they're still acting very aggressively, sometimes in these cases it is the kindest thing to let them go and put them to sleep, just so they're not suffering by being constantly stressed and aggressive all the time. The next reason some people may choose to have just one rat is because they can't afford a second rat. Now this one is a touchy one. In most places in the UK, most rats are about £20 each, so £40 for a physical pair. The most expensive part of buying rats to start with is the upkeep and the items you need, so the rat cage, bedding, toys, food, everything you'd have to buy anyway for one rat is exactly what you'd need for 2 or 3 rats. The only place where it does vary really is the vet bills. Vet bills can be quite expensive, and obviously the more rats you have, the more you may have to pay for their vet bills. And I'm saying this in the nicest way possible, but if you can't afford the £20 for a second rat, you probably can't afford the vet bills, and if your rats have to go to the vets, they have to go to the vets, you can't deny them that, but vet bills can start anywhere from around £50 upwards, and it can get quite expensive. So I'm saying this in the nicest way possible. If you can't afford £20 for an extra rat, you probably can't afford the general upkeep of vet bills because they can get quite expensive. So I also asked you guys on Instagram some of the most ridiculous reasons you've heard people use why they're housing their rats alone, and here are some of the honourable mentions just so we cover all the bases. They don't have the colour of rat I want at the moment, so I'm just keeping the one. I don't want to neuter my aggressive rat because it will take away his masculinity, as if rats have any concept of such a human concept. My aunt's cousin's best friend had a rat that ate the other rat, so I'm not going to bother and risk it. I didn't vibe with the other rat in the pet store, so I just bought one and ripped it away from its friend. He's best friends with my cat, so he doesn't need a rat friend. Yeah, this one is also a no-no. Just like it works with humans, other animals, whether it's a dog, a cat, a guinea pig, also cannot communicate with him in the exact same way another rat would, so this one is also a no-no. It doesn't matter, he's going to die soon anyway. I've had my rat alone for too long now, so there's no point trying. If this video came across harsh at any point, I do apologise, but my main priority is always with the rats and making sure everyone is well informed. Don't get me wrong, there are going to be situations where rats may need to be housed alone temporarily while you sort things out, but long-term rats do need to be living with social company, and as long as you're doing everything in your power to make sure you do that, that is the main thing. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this video and I hope it's been helpful. Don't forget to subscribe for more animal related videos, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!